Well, good morning, and thank you everyone for joining us for this town hall meeting relating to furloughs. I just want to provide a brief introduction. I think everyone on our campus is aware that due to the very difficult budget situation, the university has implemented furloughs. That was approved as part of the budget by the Board of Governors on July 23rd, and there was communication later that day to the campus. But furloughs are they're a complicated matter, and understandably there are many questions that have been asked through the online invitation to provide questions, and also we have opportunity today for some live questions. So I want to especially thank our two panelists for being here, Evan Jewsbury, who's our Chief Human Resources Officer, and Dr. Wendy McGrain, who's our Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs. Thank you for fielding the questions today, and with that I'll turn it over to Heather, who will provide the questions. And again, thanks everyone for participating, and looking forward to, of course, our students being back on campus next week and all the great energy that comes with that. I'll turn it over to Heather.
Thank you so much. All right, we are going to go ahead and jump right in with some questions. Evan, I have the first question. What exactly is a furlough?
So a furlough is a temporary layoff from work in which you are unpaid, but you still remain employed during that time for a specified number of weeks. And so in general, people are not paid during furloughs, but they do keep their employment benefits, such as health insurance. And furloughs are mandatory, where vacation and sick time can't be used to supplement in lieu of taking a furlough day. So workers during a furlough should not perform work during that time.
All right, second question. Why am I being furloughed?
So state appropriations and COVID-19 obviously have, created a budget situation that have resulted in us having to take furlough days. And so Missouri Southern made that decision to furlough its employees if they've earned, except for those earning an annual salary of $30,000 or less. And employees with higher salaries will be required to take on a greater number of furlough days.
Thank you. Will I return with the same job and rate of pay after a furlough?
Yes, that is correct. You would return to your same position.
Can I take my sick leave or vacation time instead of being furloughed?
So unfortunately, that's not an option. All furlough time is required to be unpaid. So that is currently how that is working.
Can employees choose between a salary decrease or a furlough?
So no, the university has designated and determined those who will have a salary reduction and those who must take furlough days. And so at this time, the majority of campus, besides President's Council, are taking furlough days. And I want to clarify, the President's Council is taking a salary reduction.
When must I take my furlough? What days, weeks?
So furlough days and weeks must be taken between August 1st and May 31st, 2021. So anytime during that period, except for 10-month faculty, which have dates, which Wendy will go over, which I think have, consultation with Faculty Senate have resulted in some additional days. So we do want to share those as well a little bit later.
What if an employee's salary is just at the level required for being exempt? Will the furlough affect the exempt status?
So this is where the FLSA comes into play, and the FLSA stands for the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is through the Department of Labor and creates the rules for an exempt or salaried employee and how we pay them. So if you are an exempt salaried employee, the FLSA says you have to be paid a certain amount each week. And in order to maintain that salaried exempt status, if that weekly amount is reduced by a furlough day or some other piece of partial hours, that affects that week in which you're receiving that pay. And so that can put you at risk of losing your status as an exempt employee. So meaning that if you did, you would have to be treated as an hourly employee. So those are the reasons of why furlough weeks we're recommending for staff and all others. It also plays into your eligibility for unemployment. And so we feel like the week blocks match the FLSA, but also allow for eligibility for unemployment.
We had one that came in live that is kind of related to this. They're having a hard time knowing that those that are asked to take only 5 days of furlough, the 30,000 to 40,000 range, are unable to take unemployment if taking all 5 days together. Can you address how you will work with the State of Missouri Unemployment Office to ensure that those employees are able to claim unemployment?
So I just want to specify, Missouri Southern or the HR office, we don't have any say in whether or not you qualify. You would go online, you'd fill out your application, you'll report your weekly earnings. There is an unemployment online calculator that you can use, and we've got the link in the FAQ document that we'll send out. So you can actually plug in what you're thinking about furloughing for the week, and it will kind of give you an answer of whether or not you'll be eligible and what amount, dollar amount, you would be receiving. So I would encourage anyone to go online to the unemployment office website. It's labor.mo.gov, and you can access the calculator and contact information there.
This is another live question. While I am on furlough, does my vacation and sick pay still accumulate?
Yes, sure does.
Okay. I am a faculty member. Will my pay be reduced in one large lump sum during one pay period, or is the furlough taken out across my full contract, some each month?
So the way that the reduction comes is when the furlough is taken for faculty, the associated pay period is when that reduction will be made to the paycheck. So it's not an across the board, every month you're going to be reduced by X amount. It's actually when those furlough days are taken is when the paycheck will reflect those days.
Okay, thank you. I'm a 12-month faculty member. Do I have to take furlough days during the same times allowed for 10-month faculty?
That's a great question, and the answer is no. However, we do still need to adhere to honoring our desire to impact students the least amount possible. So because you have additional time that you're on campus, there are the possibility of taking days. You would have to take single days, likely, except for the specified periods. So it is possible. However, we do ask that 12-month faculty really work closely with academic affairs so that we can review those proposed absences.
Thank you, Wendy. Here's another one for you. I'm a faculty member. Oh, this is the same one. I'm sorry, it was in there twice. Let's go to another one. I'm a 12-month faculty member. Same one. I'm a faculty. Is there a certain time? We're going to get
These
through
are
these
popular.
questions.
These are important
Yes,
questions,
they are.
clearly.
I am
Yes.
faculty. Is there a certain time period I may be required to take my furlough, week or weeks?
Absolutely. So that's a wonderful question, and I just want to preface it by thanking Faculty Senate and HR for working with us and working with our legal counsel so that we could expand the days and weeks available for faculty, because I'm sure you'll recall that the initial iteration was pretty limited in the number of 5-day periods available to faculty. So we have coordinated, and it now results in times that faculty may take their furlough. Let me get this right here. December 14th through January 8th, and May 17th through May 28th. And I believe that reflects 6 5-day periods. Now there is a caveat to that, and it required some give and take on the part of Faculty Senate, so I do thank them for that. And so what we did was we will roll back the deadline for grade submission. So rather than it being 10 a.m. the Monday following commencement, it will now be midnight the Sunday following commencement. And so that frees up that additional instruction day. It's categorized as an instruction day and allows for a 5-day period following commencement. So grades are going to be due a little bit earlier, and that's something that we also coordinated with the registrar's office. So we would not impact services that are provided. But I think this is a workable solution, and it hopefully is a win-win for faculty.
Thank you. Can faculty take furlough days in less than 5-day blocks?
Yes. Yes. Short answer is yes.
Short answers are good. Evan, we're going to jump back
Okay.
to you. What happens if I take a furlough day week when the university's financial situation improves? Do I get the payback that was lost?
So unfortunately, no, but the university, would consider after the end of May and what that financial picture will look like. So we'll determine at the end of May what June, July, and the following August will look like.
What happens if an employee should be laid off and have already taken furlough days? Can they get them added to a separation package agreement?
So the university has made the decision at this point to not consider layoffs at this time until sometime after November 1st. So if and when that happens, but at this point, we are considering those decisions at that point. So how that will look and what will be taken into consideration at that time will just depend on what November 1st looks like. So
Here's another live question that's come in. As a full-time staff member and adjunct faculty, when will I need to take my furlough?
you want to answer that?
Sure. So it depends upon what the time frame is that you're teaching. If it is a UE course, for example, that runs 8 weeks, then you would need to take that furlough following the instructional period. If you're teaching for the entire semester, then we need you to adhere to the dates that have been specified for our 10-month faculty. But if it's a late start, you could do it before the class begins, and if it's just an 8-week course, you could do it after the class ends.
Can an employee split the 5-day period between 2 weeks? For example, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
No, not currently. The way the FLSA says is it has to mirror the policy for the work week. So the university defines the work week as Monday through Friday in the simplest terms. So that's the way we have to define the work week.
Thank you. How will my days be tracked?
So that's a good question. We plan to issue an email here shortly, actually, to campus. For everyone except for faculty, you'll be going online your normal customary way through web time entry or online leave reporting and code your days that you're taking furlough. So we have 2 codes that are being set up for biweekly employees and then another one for monthly. And those codes will be what you'll use. So we'll have simple directions we'll send out shortly that will show you how to code. For all faculty, there is a paper form, and so the paper form would then be completed and submitted to the department chair, to the dean, and then to the provost for approval. We do ask that in all cases, though, that you try to get this started within at least 4 weeks in advance so that we can try to get this applied, your furlough days applied to the month in which you want them to be deducted from your pay. Typically, payroll cutoffs are around the middle of any given month, so that's kind of the reason for the 4-week requirement, so that we get your desires on your paycheck met, and so that we're not holding in a future month that maybe you didn't intend for us to withhold from. So we would appreciate getting those request forms in and the system populated 4 weeks in advance if we can. Obviously, August, we're already here. There's exceptions for August, so submit those to us. But moving forward, it would be helpful to get those as early as possible.
Here's another live question. How does a holiday falling within a week I scheduled to furlough impact my furlough week?
So that's a very good question. We just received guidance on that, and we are allowed and permitted to allow employees to furlough voluntarily during a holiday. So let's say spring break week when staff are paid for Thursday, Friday as holiday. If you wanted to furlough that week of spring break, that would count as your full 5-day furlough period. So you could furlough your pay essentially those 2 holiday days. Same for, around the holidays and Christmas and things like that as well. So holidays can be considered as applicable furlough eligible times. Yeah.
Please explain the week waiting period. Please elaborate on the waiting period as of today versus what Congress may pass.
So that's another good question. As of today, my understanding is that, and kind of amongst colleagues within the HR world, that they're expecting something to happen shortly. I know President Trump has recently issued some guidance and going back to the $600 per week unemployment federal assistance, as well as moving forward with eliminating that waiting week. So I know that something will happen, we just don't know when. And I would say that at this point, if you're considering furloughing right now, it might be advantageous if you can to wait a little, a month maybe, just to kind of see what plays out, because if you're trying to file for unemployment, you may have missed out on some additional funds there that may be coming at some point. So just be thinking about that and watching the news to see what happens.
Wendy, this is a question for you that has come in live. How do faculty schedule their furlough time?
Faculty will have a form, a lovely form that HR has developed, and as Evan mentioned just a moment ago, it will be distributed to campus shortly after we complete this town hall, along with an updated FAQ. And so they need to coordinate with their department chairs and submit it on the paper form, much like you would a travel request or a leave request. And so it's just like that, the same process, the same signatures are required, and it moves through the same approval process and winds up in HR.
Wonderful, thank you. Here's another live question for you, Wendy. Okay. For faculty to receive unemployment benefits during a furlough, they must be unemployed for a full week. However, Missouri requires 1 week unpaid waiting period. Does this mean that faculty who want to seek unemployment insurance through the Department of Labor must furlough for 2 consecutive weeks in order to receive 1 week of benefits?
And I'll take that, Wendy,
Please
if you
do.
don't mind. Yeah. Yes, that is accurate at this time. Prior to July 1st, however, the waiting week was eliminated due to the COVID assistance in the plan that we were just talking about earlier. Again, follow the news. It may change, depending on what comes about in the next few weeks. So where that waiting week would be eliminated, and you would get the 2 weeks of unemployment, as well as the $600 federal assistance on top of the maximum of $320 a week, so potentially up to $920 a week. But right now, that's back down to $320 a week as a maximum benefit. So we're waiting to see what that will look like.
If these requirements come out and are changed, is that something that we would be able to put out to the university to let them know?
Yes, absolutely. So anytime there's a change, we are constantly updating this FAQ document. And in fact, since we issued this document to campus, it's gone from about 2 pages to 6 pages. So we will send this out this afternoon so you can read through it and get the most up-to-date information. But yes, we will. If that major change would happen, we would notify the campus.
This is another live question that came in, Evan. What if there is a major event requiring a furloughed employee's expertise? Can they be called back in to work?
So no, I mean so FLSA basically says that if you are called to come back into work and you're an exempt employee, then you just have reset your clock for the week. In other words, you would have to select another week to furlough. So for hourly staff, in furloughs, you can't perform any work in which that day in which you take the work. So when you are furloughed, you're furloughed that period of time, meaning no work can be performed.
Wendy, this is a live question for you. Can I take a single day of furlough during one semester if I have no class or office hours scheduled for that day?
No. No, the furlough days need to be taken within the designated time frames.
Evan, here is a live question.
Okay.
HR does not open the online time off submission platform early enough for salaried employees to submit furlough a month in advance. Will HR be opening up the months earlier than normal to meet the request for a month advance notice?
Yes, that is our intent, is that we would open those earlier than normal due to this current situation that we're in.
Can I check email to answer it or do anything work-related while on furlough?
I will field that one. And so the answer is no. Arrangements need to be made with your colleagues in the department so that you have a backup plan. You can put an out-of-office message on your phone, out-of-office message in your email, but you cannot do any work or work-related product. And so I just wanted to jump in on this one because I have had a couple of questions from faculty with regard to scholarship, because that is part of the job responsibilities for a faculty member. And so during that furlough period, scholarly and creative work is also not permitted. So nothing can be done work-related during the furlough days.
Thank you. Evan, can I pick my furlough date?
So exempt employees, and biweekly employees can absolutely pick their furlough days. The only exception to that is, as Wendy said, the faculty, which have designated time frames that are least impactful to student success, and that's why those dates are picked, so for the faculty.
Since I'm a full-time faculty, will my annual income be reduced with Mosers? Same way with staff.
Yeah, so each paycheck that you receive each month, we report a percentage of that to Mosers. Missouri Southern pays in that percentage. So for the month in which you furlough, your reduced pay will be calculated on Mosers, per the Mosers percentage. So what's reported for that month in which you furlough is going to be less for that month as it's reported to Mosers for that month.
Wendy, this is a live question for you. Can they open their emails for non-work related issues?
How do you distinguish between work-related and non-work-related until you've actually opened the email? I would suggest that if they have a personal email account, that they use that for the time period when they are not working due to furlough, because otherwise I just don't know how you would distinguish between an incoming message as to whether or not it was work or non-work related, unless somebody has a great idea, in which I'm willing to listen.
This is causing a great deal of stress on me and my family. Who can I talk to, or where can I go to speak to someone?
Yeah, so we have the EAP program available. Obviously, your supervisor, the President's Council, other faculty and staff are all happy to speak with you in my office as well. But the EAP program provides free counseling and or assistance. So you can call in. It's 100% confidential. You can visit with any therapist or counselor you want in the community or over the phone, up to 6 sessions, free of charge. So they have other things besides counseling, though. So even if you need assistance with budget preparations or need online tools for, you're refinancing your house or whatever, you want to find out how you can defer your house payments, or you want to find out how you can defer your car loan for a little while. Those types of things, they can help you through that. So just call in. They have a great system, and you can go to mysigna.com, or you can call the 800 number, which we'll put in the FAQ as well.
We've touched on this just a bit, but can you explain in a little bit more detail, why do salary employees have to take a week at a time?
Yeah, that's a hot question. So it's really, it gets down to the FLSA and at the advice of our legal counsel. So following what the FLSA requirements are, and so we have to follow that for staff. Why there's an exception there for faculty is simply because under the FLSA, it says that they're instructors, or they're teachers. And so there's a carve-out for instructors teaching, and for that group, that's just the way the law reads. So that's really the answer to that question. So,
Is the FAQ document updating and ongoing? Is there a site where we can view the document at any time? How else will you update us when additions will be added to this document?
yeah, so right now we have it on our HR SharePoint site. And so if you go out to MissouriSouthern.edu and then click on the faculty staff button at the top left, you can navigate down to the SharePoint button and then to the HR page. And you'll see a folder there for Furlough. And it's time-stamped when we've updated the recent version. So that's our intent. Now, if there's a big change with coming forward, like we talked about earlier about the unemployment-based change, things like that, we would notify via campus-wide email to let everyone know of a major change in the unemployment calculation. Yeah.
We can also add that to the COVID
Oh, yeah.
website.
Yep.
There's a button there with the FAQs that will
Absolutely.
take you to that SharePoint site as well if you're used to navigating the
Yep.
COVID site.
Yep.
You mentioned that holiday days do count for a 5-day week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just for staff, or will holiday days also count as furlough days for faculty also?
They can also count for faculty. And again, that's sort of hot off the presses, something that we learned in speaking with legal counsel last night. So we're pleased to be able to add those weeks as options for furloughs to be taken.
Evan, what about my benefits during my furlough? Vacation, sick, health, etc.
Right. So your vacation and sick stay the same. Health insurance stays the same. All of your benefits operate like normal during a furlough period.
I'm a supervisor. How do I keep track of this?
Yeah, so we're asking supervisors to help us by having spreadsheets of your employees and to track this in addition to HR. However, we have reports that we're working with IT to develop to where you'll get, as if you're a supervisor, you'll receive a biweekly email, is what we're thinking, that'll kind of show you your group of employees, and it'll kind of keep you updated as to who's taken time, so you can say, okay, I probably need to be thinking about managing my group of staff so we're not all gone at the same time. So you'll get a report, but we just ask that you try to manage this in coordination with your employees so that we're making sure the system is updated. So it is a lot, but especially with faculty, I might add, because we're doing a paper-based process. So it'll really come down to the deans and department chairs to make sure that they're coordinating this on a spreadsheet because we won't really have any reports available.
We're just learning a lot as we go and trying to create the best process for everybody involved.
Right.
So if anything changes, again, we'll make those updates to the FAQ, but we think that this is probably the best approach for right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We think it's a good approach, and so just anyone's assistance in scheduling those. If you know your furlough days now, put them in the system. So,
How do you address people who have key roles being gone for a week at a time? What if an emergency comes up? Are there any key tactics that we can use to make this better on our staff?
yeah, I mean, it comes down to planning. I'll use myself. Judy and I are not going to be gone at the same time. So that's just something we're coordinating. So you just want to make sure that you have some sort of a backup and have that planned out in advance so that your folks know this is who's going to be at the helm for that given week. And it just takes a lot of pre-planning, and but it can be done, I think.
Can you tell us what FLSA stands for?
Yeah, Fair Labor Standards Act.
I am planning on retiring by the end of the year. Do I have to take furlough days, weeks?
Yeah, so you want to
Yeah,
talk a little
sure.
bit about that too?
Sure, and I know this will probably be compounded with the retirement incentive as it is rolled out. But if the intention is to retire before the end of this year, the fiscal year, the calendar year, so December 31st, then we would ask that you take half of those furlough days before that intended retirement date. If you don't plan to retire until May 31st, then that's a non-issue. You'll still take within the designated time periods, and that's for faculty. Now, I don't know if there's something special for staff.
Yeah, for staff, we're asking to get as many furlough days as you can possible prior to your retirement date. And currently, we are waiting for additional guidance on that, but at this time, we're just asking that if you have a retirement coming up relatively soon, to be considering that as you consider your spending down of your vacation, typically things like that retirees do. So just take that into account when you're planning those days.
Wendy, this is one that's come in live for you. Just for clarification, if you're not 10-month faculty, if you're not 10-month faculty and you are not wanting to take unemployment, can you take furlough days one at a time? The 1 week at a time furlough is only if you are seeking unemployment compensation. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct for 10-month and for 12-month faculty. You can take your days in a 5-day stretch, or you can take them individually.
I am part-time. Do I have to take furlough days or weeks?
So part-time employees making less than $30,000 are not required to take furlough days.
Can I draw unemployment while I am unpaid due to furlough?
Yeah, so you can file for unemployment, and so if you qualify, though, the first week you file is considered that waiting week that we're talking about, which is that unpaid week. Now, that could, like we talked about earlier, that could change. We'll see what happens, but at this time, taking it, if an employee takes the necessary furlough in 1-day increments to lessen the burden of having a deduction in their pay, just keep in mind that, again, that can disqualify you for unemployment. So just making sure that you are considering that. If you're not interested in unemployment, it's probably not a big deal to take a day here or a day there. But if you're interested in unemployment, you probably need to schedule it in a full week. Do the calculator online, see where you fall out as far as if you're going to be eligible or not. And we have those links in the FAQ.
Wendy, this is one that's come in for you. For accreditation requirements, will we need to notify these boards that the program directors will be gone and not able to make critical decisions?
No, that is not an accreditation requirement unless they can demonstrate to me, to show me where in the accreditors' guidelines they require such notification. But I am unaware of any requirement of that type.
I think this goes back, Evan, to what we were talking about earlier with the spreadsheets and tracking and how supervisors can help. Will HR be tracking who has taken their furlough days? What if someone tries to game the system and slip through without taking their days?
Okay, so yeah, so HR as well as academic affairs will be tracking these, and we have that all online, so we'll be able to see from our end and HR as well what days have been taken and that kind of thing.
Would the shared work program with the Missouri Department of Labor work for MSSU and eliminate furloughs or layoffs?
Okay, so Missouri Southern is a reimbursable employer to the state, so we're a little bit different in how, so in other words, for each unemployment claim that's made, we have to reimburse. So The shared work program isn't something that we feel like would be of assistance right now. Typically, when you read about the shared work program, you know, it's reserved for manufacturing jobs. So if we're all working on the line together, we all pretty much know how to do this certain job. But maybe there's 20 of us that do that same job. And so we can fill in for each other. Here we have so many different unique jobs and different knowledge sets and skill sets for certain types of jobs. It would be very difficult to say, well, you know, someone outside my office is going to sit in my role for the day, or somebody's going to sit in Jan's role for the day and process payroll that's never done it before. I mean, there's just not enough overlap in jobs to be able to say that it would be workable for here. And typically you see that in more of like a factory type setting where there's lots of universal, similar types of jobs where people can overlap pretty easily. Yep.
Thank you. Can you tell us how unemployment benefits are calculated?
Yeah, so, and I'm going to read this one from my notes, but if you're eligible to receive unemployment, the weekly benefit rate in Missouri will be 4% of your average quarterly wages during the 2 highest paid quarters of the base period. So the maximum weekly benefit amount is $320. The maximum number of weeks unemployment is awarded is 20 weeks. So 20 weeks from the date that you first file for unemployment. And there is a calculator again I would encourage you to use to see what your unemployment amount would be.
Thank you. Do I have to search for work if I file for unemployment?
So no, not currently. The way furloughs work, you do not have to search for work during that time.
Do I need anything from MSSU to file for unemployment?
Nope, you just go online, go to labor.mo.gov, and then go to the U-Interact system. You'll go into an online portal, you'll set up an account, and you'll log in there for each week or furlough day that you choose. You'll want to report that in their system. So you want to keep that updated, and that's how the unemployment office will process your benefits.
I think I saw on the FAQs where there were some instructions for that. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. On the very last page of the FAQ, there are step-by-step instructions on how you will go online, what website you go to, and basically how you file for unemployment. So it's pretty simple, but if you have trouble, we just ask that you reach out to the unemployment office directly. The closest one to here is Springfield. So the Springfield office has a number that you can contact, and it's also posted online as well if you need assistance.
Can you clarify if a full-time exempt employee does not want to file unemployment, can they take furlough 1 day at a time?
Say that question one more time, I'm sorry.
If a full-time exempt employee does not want to file unemployment, can they take furlough 1 day at a time?
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. The FLSA, again, you have to take it in those 5-day blocks, unless you're hourly staff or you are faculty, because of that instruction piece that we talked about just a minute ago, where instructors, if you're an instructor or teacher, the FLSA has a carve-out for that group. But just a traditional staff, salaried exempt employee, that's where that 5-day block comes into play. And I know that's frustrating to some, especially if you're like, I'm not filing for unemployment. But again, we can't mess with the weekly amount. So that's where that comes in, again, going back to the FLSA and what's permitted.
What if I file for unemployment in September, then don't take any additional furlough hours until January 2021? Would my employment account still be active, or do I need to refile?
Yeah, so on that, you want to make sure you're logging in every so often, because if you don't, your case is available for 12 months from the first date that you file. So just make sure that you log in on occasion to the account. The worst case scenario would happen if you did get locked out or whatever, is that you wouldn't have to start at the beginning and fill out everything, but you could easily go back in and just reactivate your account. So you can go online weekly if you like, or even less than that. It's just whatever you want to do on that.
I think that we're getting a few questions in asking for some clarification on the holiday pay.
Mhm.
So if you take your furlough days during a week that is also paid holidays, how does that affect your paycheck for that week?
So for that week, if you're choosing to voluntarily furlough during a paid holiday, then your paycheck will reflect that reduction in pay.
I only need to take 5 days or 1 week of furlough time. Can I still get unemployment?
So no, not currently, because the way the unemployment world is at this given moment is that it's back to a waiting week. So your first 5 days, you cannot currently receive unemployment. Again, that may change as the federal government makes decisions in the next few weeks. So once we know more on that waiting week might be eliminated, because prior to July 1st, it was different. So we're back to the old world for now until things may change at a later date.
Wendy, this question is for you. Can you share the dates for faculty to take furlough again, please?
Absolutely. Okay, so now we've expanded, and the dates are December 24th through January 8th, and then May 17th through May 28th.
Thank you. Can exempt staff opt to take a pay reduction instead of furlough days?
No, those have already been identified, and the answer is no.
Do grant-funded departments have to take furlough if salary is included in the grant budget?
So yeah, we've got a couple of grant program questions just today, I think. And the way we're looking at that is yes, Missouri Southern's requiring you to furlough. So you will need to allocate for that in your grant budget to make sure that you're spending down your grant, because I know if you have to spend it down to zero, so you have to figure out another way to spend those funds, because you're going to have some excess left from your salaried folks or hourly folks, for that matter, that would be furloughed during that time. So just be taking that into consideration in your grant budget.
I work in a small department, and I'm not certain that I can take 5 furlough days in a row. Are there going to be any exceptions made to the requirement that the 5 days be taken at a time?
Nope. Nope, and just because
You answered that too fast.
I've answered it in a few different ways now, but yeah, again, the FLSA requires us to furlough in those 5-day blocks. It's not a Missouri Southern choice, and trust me, we have gone over this with our legal counsel in a million different ways, and if we could, we would. But there's just no carve-out other than faculty and instruction in the FLSA and the way the law is currently written. So that's the way it has to be for exempt staff at this time.
For budgeting purposes, how do we estimate our pay loss for 5 days?
So for 5 days, the payroll system calculates it, and I'll go into that in detail if you want to answer that for specifics of faculty.
Sure.
Or if you want,
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So basically, it's going to take your annual salary. It's going to divide it by 2080 hours in a year. 2080 is the number of work hours for the year. And then it's going to give you your hourly rate. And this is applicable to any job on campus. And it gives you that hourly rate. And you can take that hourly rate and multiply it by 40 hours in a work week, and that's going to give you the amount of what you would be furloughed for a week. Am I speaking correctly? Yeah, they're shaking their heads. So yes, so that's how you would figure your dollar amount for what you will be furloughed. Good enough?
So to just sort of go forward on that particular question, we've also received questions from faculty, because if you do the calculations, if you take that formula and do the calculation, it will differ slightly from the salary notice that faculty received. And so what I want to say about that is that the salary notices had to be distributed within a certain time frame, and we were operating under a crunch. And so those were calculated with the percentage based on what tier salaries fell into for faculty. And so in every case, in doing this formula, in every case, faculty will come out on the positive side of that calculation using the HR. So I know we've gotten this question a couple of times. We just learned this yesterday, and so we haven't had a chance to go through and do the actual numbers other than just testing in several different categories. And I think faculty will be pleased because this does work in their favor.
I've had a couple people ask about that they're confused still with the calculations. Would there be some place that maybe we could post
Oh, yeah.
something to figure out so we can find a way they can look through that better?
Absolutely. I
opposed to
think we'll
just
just
hearing the
add an
answer.
example scenario to the FAQ.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
Can a supervisor deny the days I wish to furlough?
So so employees need to work with supervisors. Obviously, you want to start this process 4 weeks in advance if you can. That's what we're recommending in all of our communications from our office, so that your supervisor has enough time to make sure that, okay, we can adequately staff the department. So, you know, if you're asking a week before, that might cause issues, so it may be denied. But if you can start that conversation now, it will be helpful in getting your request approved. So.
We have about 15 minutes left. I was just letting you guys know for time, so we'll continue to take a few more questions. As a 10-month faculty member, if I receive an unemployment check, do I have to report that as income earned on my 2020 tax forms?
Yes, you do, and you'll get a separate tax statement at the end of the calendar year that you will use for your tax preparation. You can also choose online to have some traditional tax withholding, so the unemployment office would withhold some taxes for you on your behalf if you wish for that to happen. When you go online and fill out your unemployment application, you'll have that option.
As a 10-month faculty member, I have to take 10 days of furlough. Can I take them one at a time if I'm not going to file for unemployment?
Yes, yes. Faculty may take their furlough days individually or 5-day periods if they wish to be eligible to apply for unemployment benefits, or 2 or 3 days at a time. It's really their prerogative. The only limitation is, of course, taking them within the designated time frames that do not impact instruction.
I've had a couple questions come in just clarifying. If they make less than $30,000 as a classified full-time employee, they do not have to take furlough, correct?
That is correct.
Where are the forms available again to request furlough days?
So we haven't sent those out yet. So we hope to send those out this afternoon following this meeting.
And that would go along with this one. When and where can faculty get the paper
Sure.
forms to schedule furlough
As far as
days?
academic affairs goes, once we have a copy of this form, it will go, as you mentioned, Heather, with the COVID documentation and the furlough-specific documentation that HR has. We have lots of forms that we make available from academic affairs, and we try to send those out at the beginning of each semester to department chairs and the administrative assistants. So we'll be sure to distribute that way as well.
Given the change to the reduction amount of 10-month faculty letters, are they supposed to sign the existing letter or will they get a new one?
They should sign the existing letter.
Do 10-month faculty get to use the 2080 formula since we are only contracted for 10 months rather than 12?
I believe the answer to that is yes, because they are paid over a 12-month period.
Here's just again, I know there's a lot of confusion surrounding some of these questions and answers. So this person is confused why exempt staff have to take their vacation time in hourly increments, but their furloughs have to happen in weekly increments.
So, so vacation is completely separate from furlough. Furlough is a whole different world, and when it comes to the FLSA and specifically furloughs, there's certain guidelines that we have to follow, and so that's really, the main answer to it. We have a lot more flexibility in how we can define vacation and use of sick leave on our own, but when it comes to furlough, it's just a whole different world.
Here's a question going back to the email and not being able to check email. They have a child that attends the Lion Cub Academy, and the academy sends email accounts to the MSSU account. Would they be able to open those emails?
So you can't perform work. So I guess if you wanted to, to check something from the LCA for, you said it was for a daycare situation. Is that what you said, Heather?
Yes. Their child attends
yeah,
LCA.
so I mean that's your own personal, that's outside of work. I mean that's not a work-related thing. So I wouldn't have a problem with that, but don't respond to work-related emails if that makes sense. But if it's your personal situation with the LCA about your kid and tuition, that's fine.
Are university emails supposed to be used for personal email?
Good question. This has been brought up a lot, over the years, and IT has an acceptable use policy. So I would direct you to that. It is a 12-page policy, and I'm sure that will probably answer the question. But do people? Yes. As long as, and the reason for that, I think, because IT doesn't know what types of viruses and malware and other things that are coming in. So just make sure that you use good judgment in what you are having sent to your work email account, because that is university property. And if there's private information in there, you don't want that to be accidentally hacked or disclosed later on in the event you were subject to some sort of a security breach or something. So just use caution in what you have sent to your email.
I'm a faculty member who must take 3 weeks of furlough. Is there a window where I can take all 3 weeks consecutively?
I believe there is. I think that the December, let me look here. I believe the December 14th through January 8th time frame allows for that.
There's
Yes.
a period of 4, actually.
That's 4
Yeah.
weeks. So you could, break that up however you deemed appropriate and get 3 weeks either at the front end or the back end of that.
What if an employee makes enough to lose 1 day a month? Will they still keep their exempt status?
No. Unfortunately, the way the FLSA is, and I respect that question because we were under the same thought process. But no, unfortunately, it's any change in your weekly pay, no matter what that amount of pay difference is. So we thought the same thing. So it's a good question. Yep.
Where can employees find the number of furlough days required per salary ranges?
So we have that actually in our FAQ that we'll send out. It's also on the leave request form for faculty that we will send out as well. But we'll make sure that that's included in here for employees.
I think that I'm looking at the additional coming in live questions to see if there's any that are new. Let's see. And I think we've covered several of these. Oh, here's an additional one. What is an employee to do if a text and/or call is sent to a mobile phone while on furlough? Are we to report it to HR?
Yeah, no, so I don't need to know about it, but you need to respond in 1 word or 2 words or 3 words, something like that. Just a sentence that says, you need to contact whoever your backup is, and leave it at that. You don't want to engage in work because that's going to reset your furlough time period. So just let them know, hey, I'm on furlough this week or today, and you need to contact whoever your backup is.
As a service to the faculty and staff, will HR provide to exempt employees the standard weekly pay to report to unemployment?
You can get that or you'll be able to get it from your pay stub on LionNet. So if you go on LionNet, you'll be able to see that information that you'll need to make your unemployment claim. But if you don't have access to be able to do that, access to that system, then just call us and we can get that information for you. But yeah, it's all available online.
And Evan and I were speaking earlier, and I think what I plan to do is to work to take our spreadsheet and do the calculation and then distribute that to the deans and department chairs so that it's available if faculty should have a question.
Employees may have left employment since furloughs were announced. Does this not positively affect the budget such that furloughs can be discontinued?
So that goes back to that earlier question. At this point, the university is carrying through with the furlough period of August 1st through May 31st. So at the end of May, a decision would be made whether or not we need to, what decisions we need to make at that point. So at this time, furloughs are for that period of time.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that question, but in reality, the furloughs do reflect budgetary savings for the institution. However, we are still having to dip into our university reserves to make the budget this year. So yes, there may be some improvement based on employees who have departed and not been replaced, but we are still operating in the red.
Could HR provide an out-of-office response for our email to notify the public that we are in furlough? Or possibly could there be a list of best practices
Oh, yeah.
established?
Yep, I'm sure we could come up with something. That's a good idea.
Is it allowable to take vacation back-to-back with furlough?
Yes.
Since additional days faculty can furlough have been added, will a new list of options be distributed?
It will be included in the FAQ, and it will also be included on the leave request form.
If I have to take 10 days and I take them in a time period between December 24th and January 8th, will I see a December-January paycheck drop 1 week's salary?
Yes, that is correct.
I believe that other questions that have come in during the time period we've asked, there'll be multiple ones come in. So I think that might be all for today.
Okay, well, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Is there any other comments that either of you would like to make before we finish up?
No, we just appreciate everyone continuing to email us with questions, because obviously beyond this meeting things will come up. So just continue to email us, hr@mssu.edu, if you have questions at this point moving forward, and we'll be happy to help you get through this process. So.
And HR has been funneling the faculty-specific questions that they receive back to our office. You can, of course, always email myself or Paula or Christina directly. This is constantly changing, and we learn new stuff every day. So we appreciate everybody's patience, and we are just going to do our best to communicate and make this go as smoothly as possible for everyone.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.